Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Izone by D'Antonio podcast. My name is Mike, and today we're going to go into Michigan State football for the 2018-19 season. It is a big episode. Um, we're going to see how Michigan State does this year. I'll talk to all of you about how I think they'll do this year. It's going to be a big year for Mark D'Antonio and the program. We'll see what they'll be able to do this year. I'm very excited for the season. I don't think I've been this excited for a college football season in a long time. So let's get right into it. Let's just start out with the realistic expectations. So really, the ceiling or the floor for this team should be 10 wins. Okay, that is the bare minimum. I believe that this team can go is 10 wins. By 10 wins, I mean 9-3 in their bowl game. So 10 wins, or it could be 10-2 and losing their bowl game. So that would also constitute 10-3. You look at the factors. This is a very good football team, as you know. One of the best in the Big Ten, probably top 3 in the Big Ten, I would say. And their schedule really favors them. They've got Ohio State and Michigan at home. Of course, they have to go to Penn State, and nobody wins at Penn State. So that's definitely their hardest game of the season. They've also got games against Northwestern and Arizona State. Those are two good teams, especially Northwestern. Always a tough team they are. So really, the schedule favors them. So I would say 10 wins is the low bar, but this is one of the best teams that D'Antonio has had in his tenure at Michigan State. I would say it's top 3, possibly top 4. I would put it in the same category as the 2015 playoff team. I wouldn't say they're as good as the Rose Bowl team from 2013, or even as good as the 2014 team, until they show me something. It's still a young team. They didn't win some big time bowl last year. They won the Holiday Bowl, but they didn't win, the Fiesta Bowl or the Orange Bowl or the Cotton Bowl. So, they're still a little bit unproven. They saw how they struggled against Ohio State last year. But really, this is a good team, good coaching, great quarterback, good defense, great skill position players. It should be a really good team. 10 wins, I believe, is the floor for this team, and so that's what I believe the expectations are for the Michigan State Spartans football team in 2018. So D'Antonio, in his press conference, addressing the media, this was after practice, I believe, yesterday, and he talked to the media about what this team can be, and he compared this team to the 2014 team. Really, the reason why is because the 2013 team, the team that went to the Rose Bowl, they were unproven coming into that year, and they shocked the world. Went on to win the Rose Bowl, beating Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. The last year's Michigan State team wasn't quite accomplished. They went to the Holiday Bowl, dismantled Washington State, got to 10 wins, another 10-win year for D'Antonio, and he said that this is like the 2014 team because they bring back a lot of production, just like the 2014 team did. And as you remember, the 2014 team had one of the best offenses in college football that year. I know they averaged over 40 points a game that year. It was outstanding to watch. You don't usually see that from a D'Antonio team, especially coming off 13. The Rose Bowl team, which did not score a lot of points. It really relied on its defense. But in 2014, Connor Cook really came out of his shell, and he was able to really make some good throws. He was really confident back there. I think the same could go for Lewerke this year. Both Lewerke and Connor Cook were sophomores, and going into their junior years, they both are. At least Connor Cook made a huge stride going into his junior year, which was 2014. I believe Lewerke will make the same strides. Now, can this offense be as good as the 2014 offense? I'm still not sure about that. Talk about L.J. Scott. He's not as good as Jeremy Langford. Is Felton Davis as good as like Aaron Burbridge or Tony Lippett or other guys like that? He's a really good receiver. I'm not sure if he's at that level yet. Is Lewerke better than Connor Cook? I do believe Lewerke is more talented than Connor Cook, and they both have the grit and the balls per se to really be good quarterbacks in the Big Ten. But the competition now is a lot harder than it was in 2014. Keep that in mind. So this team, could the offense be as good as 2014? Not in the point totals, because the defenses are much better this time around than they were in 2014. But I do think this offense can be really, really good. I think they could really, really move the ball with the running game and the passing game with one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Top 10, top 5, I would say, running back in the Big Ten. Best wide receiver in the Big Ten. Good tight ends. Good offensive line. All you're looking for in a good offense, they've got. So, this team could be like the 2014 team, which went 10-2, beat Baylor in the Cotton Bowl, so went 11-2. And their only losses were against the two teams in the national championship, Oregon and Ohio State. So that was 2014, probably the most underrated team that Antonio's ever had. If that team did not play Oregon week 2 of the season, I believe, they would have won 11-1, and it would have been hard to keep them out of the playoff, which they probably still would have been left out, but still, that was a really, really, really good team, 2014. Let's talk about Brian Lewerke. He is a stud. He had the lowest interception percentage in the Big Ten as a sophomore last year, which was just mind-blowing. There were some games where he was more consistent than others, and that's going to happen with a young quarterback. Against Maryland and against Ohio State, he was just terrible. But he was getting pressured a lot against Ohio State. Maryland, it was in the snow, the sleet, the freezing rain, whatever they were playing in against Maryland. He still ran the ball pretty well against the Terps. Early in the season, he was a little turnover happy. But for him to get to the lowest interception percentage late in the season was just a really good thing to see. Against Notre Dame, I think he was trying to carry too much last year against Notre Dame. Couldn't quite keep it under control, and that's what really cost him. But he is no turnover machine. Let's keep that in mind. He is efficient. He can run the football. He's got a great arm. He can fit it into tight windows. Sometimes he can be a little inaccurate, especially with throws to the outside, out routes. But I'm sure he'll improve on that. He's really shown big improvement from the year before. So I really expect Brian Lewerke to be really good this year. Top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten. Possibly the best, Him and Clayton Thorson, Trace McSorley, those 3 are really good. We'll see how good Brian Lewerke can be this year. Because really, Michigan State is going to go as far as their quarterback takes them. And we saw it last year. He had at least 3 or 4 fourth quarter comebacks. The one against Northwestern to tie the game up at 17 was just unbelievable to watch. And he threw for over 400 yards in that game, broke the school record. Couldn't quite get it done in overtime, but you saw that game how special this kid can be. And I truly think he is a top 10 quarterback in this country. I do. None of the rankings are saying anything about him. But you just look at the body of work that he showed last year. Of course, against Ohio State, he was terrible. We know that. Everybody was terrible. Ohio State was angry. And it happens. You have bad games when you're a young quarterback. But you have great games, like Penn State and Northwestern. He had great games. Washington State, he was perfect that day. I mean, let's be honest. He was making plays all day, all game long. Kept the defense off balance with his running. Able to pass the ball. Brian Lewerke was terrific. So that is what I think of Brian Lewerke. He is a terrific young quarterback. Not young anymore, junior. But he's got a shot to really be great and take this team places. Yeah, once again, talk about the Michigan State offense. You talk about the quarterback, Brian Lewerke. L.J. Scott, great running back if he can hold on to the ball. Later in the year, he was great. Holding on to the ball early, not so much. Can he hold on to the football? That's the question. So I think this offense can be really good. I think they can be one of the best in the Big Ten, especially with D'Antonio changing his offensive system. He's not just a pro coach anymore. He's put in plays from many different systems. You saw last year they were running spread late in the year. and pro. And they were running some RPOs late in the season where Lewerke would either fake, or they would fake it to Scott, and then Lewerke would take it out and throw for somebody, or he had the option to run as well. So it was, I really like the direction the offense is going. It's not like Mark D'Antonio to let his quarterback, gunsling. I think he trusted Connor Cook at the end of his career. You saw it his sophomore year, 2013. He did not let Connor Cook do much. 2014, he let Connor Cook, and 2015, he let Connor Cook do his thing. It really helped Michigan State. I think Lewerke can do the same this year. Wide receiver core, Felton Davis, Cody White, Darrell Stewart, terrific receiving core. Matt Sokol, good tight end. This team's going to be able to move the chains, let's just say that. How good can the defense be? This was a good defense last year. They weren't great, they weren't amazing, they were good. It started with the linebacking core of Joe Bacci last year. He was terrific. But their lack of a pass rush hurt them last year in big games, like against Northwestern and against Ohio State, where they couldn't get a pass rush. And your secondary can be great, and they do have a great secondary. The unfortunate injury to Josiah Scott, which I'll talk about in just a second, could really hurt them. But I really do think this defense can be really good. If they can get a consistent pass rush, talk about 2013 to 2015 Michigan State with Shilly Calhoun coming off the edge, Bulla on the blitz, all those type of players. Bocce's one of them. Kenny Willekes, all these really, really tough, gritty players coming off the edge, trying to make great plays. If they can get a pass rush, this defense can be really good. And they really can stop the run. We saw it last year. They were top 10 in stopping the rush last season. Their secondary can be terrific. Justin Lane, Josiah Scott, if he comes back, and I hope he does. I'm sure he will. 2-month injury is what they say. If he comes back healthy, that would be very, very important. Khari Willis, the safety, other just really solid guys in the back end could really help Michigan State's defense this year. I think they're definitely top 3 in the Big Ten in defense. I would say they're third behind Wisconsin and Michigan. Put Michigan 1 probably, Wisconsin 2, Michigan State 3, Ohio State 4, I would say. So yeah, it's going to be weird to see. It's going to be weird to see how good this defense can be. Hopefully the offense is just chewing clock away, and that will help Michigan State's defense get rest, able to go out there and stop the defense. So that's what I believe, or that's what I think about the Michigan State defense this year. About the Josiah Scott injury. So this is a big loss for the defense. Josiah Scott, freshman All Big Ten honors last year. I can't remember if he was freshman All America. I don't remember, but he could have been. Terrific player, great corner, stays with people, gets picks, great cover corner. A little bit undersized, but he's not going to play against the huge receivers. He's going to play against the smaller type receivers, and he's going to cover them extremely well. And that's what he did last year. But Mark D'Antonio said in his press conference he'll be out 2 months with an undisclosed injury. This could be a big loss. The depth for Michigan State is a little bit of a question, especially when you have so many starters returning. You just question how many people, who has experience off the bench. It's always the question. D'Antonio always able to really develop his players very well. I'm sure he has a guy ready to come in. And I know Justin Lane is a great corner on the other side. He's going to be able to step up and become that number 1 corner, which they'll need him to be, especially early in the season when they play teams, like Arizona State. So we'll see what happens with the Josiah Scott injury. You hope it's not awful. Hope he's not out for longer than 2 months. Hopefully he can get back for the Penn State game or even the Michigan game. That's what I'm hoping for. Get him back as quickly as possible so that you're ready for the big guys to have your full strength team. We have to talk about Michigan, don't we? Michigan State versus Michigan. Who has a better team? I don't think it's even a conversation right now. Now, you could talk about recruiting all you want. You can talk about returning talent. Um, you could talk about five-star quarterbacks all you want. Here's what I can tell you last year. Here's what I can tell you. Michigan is the same team that blew a lead against South Carolina in their bowl game, and they looked very shaky all around. And it was not the quarterback. The quarterback was fine. Brandon Peters was fine. He wasn't great. And if Shea Patterson is what he's hyped up to be, this can be a great team. I just don't think he's as hyped up as he should be, Or he's a little bit too hyped up for what I think he is. No, I did see him against Cal. He wasn't great. He struggled against Power 5 teams. He did throw for the Ole Miss passing record. But, he does turn the ball over a lot. And that's what Michigan quarterbacks did last year as well with O'Korn, who was a turnover machine. You can pass for all these yards, but if you're turning over the ball, it doesn't matter. And really, you also saw coaching. Michigan's coaching last year was just terrible. I know they hired Jim McElwain, which might make their offense better, but they were running just terrible plays. It made me shake my head. Everybody says Jim Harbaugh is a guru. Just the plays he was running. It looked like a high school offense out there. It was terrible. But Michigan's defense is good. Is probably top 5 in the country, right? They return a lot of production back there on the defense. But you've seen last year they are prone to misdirection. They are too aggressive on defense. And it really shows at times with Michigan's defense. They can be dominant at times, and you can move the ball on them at times just because they can be out of position. So, Michigan's going to be a really good team this year. Michigan State returns 19 starters, 18 now without Josiah Scott. So 18 starters from a 10-win team. They are experienced, just like Michigan. Recruiting, I don't even want to talk about recruiting because in the Big Ten, D'Antonio has shown he can win without the big recruits. He has shown he can have a program that is a 5-star program without the 5-star guys. So I'm not worried about the recruiting edge that Michigan has, even if they have a bunch of 5 stars up there against 3 stars at Michigan State. I just think, Michigan State's clearly the better team. All right, Brian Lewerke, you can say whatever you want about him. He's more proven than Shea Patterson. Shea Patterson's going into a brand new system, so you don't know how these factors are gonna play out. And Michigan State's defense was really good last year. They're going to be really good this year. Michigan's defense was great last year. They're going to be great this year. That is the only advantage Michigan has over Michigan State. The quarterback, I think Lewerke's better than Patterson. Running back, better receiving core. The secondary, they're comparable to each other. I would say Michigan has a better secondary now because Josiah Scott's out, but they're very comparable secondary-wise. Special teams, Michigan State's been known for their special teams. So, and we saw it on the last play of the game in 2015, with the Jalen Watts-Jackson thing. But, Michigan State is just a better football team right now, and I think it's obvious. I think ESPN got their rankings right. The one coach that said Michigan State's the best in the country, I don't think they're that good. They can be really good this year, though. So, that is what I think about Michigan versus Michigan State. Team-wise, I think Michigan State is a better football team right now than Michigan. And let's look at the schedule for Michigan State. I have them going 10-2, 7-2 in conference. Only losses are to Penn State and Ohio State. And this would be a little disappointing, knowing that you were just a win away from the playoff. And that's what Michigan State would be. Loss at Penn State. Penn State is just so tough to play at. It's just ridiculously hard to play there. Nobody wins at Penn State, it seems like. That is just going to be extremely tough. Extremely tough. And I think, I don't know if they'll be ready for that game. You can't simulate the environment that Penn State has. So that's going to be a really tough game. And Ohio State, it's at home. but Urban Meyer has shown it doesn't matter. 2014, he came into Michigan State. I believe Michigan State was 8 or 7 ranked. Ohio State was about 15 ranked. J.T. Barrett threw all over them. Threw all over the defense. I believe it was 52-39 was the final score. You know, I just think Ohio State might be a better football team this year than Michigan State. So that is why I have them going 10-2 this year. Let's look at the top 4 teams in the East. This is what I have them going. I have Michigan State going 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. I have Michigan going 9-3, 7-2 in the conference. Losses to Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State on the last game of the year. I have Ohio State going 11-1, only loss to Penn State. And I have Penn State going 10-2, losses to Michigan and Wisconsin on back-to-back weeks. So that is what I have. That is going to be it for this episode of the Is Owned by D'Antonio podcast. We will see you next week. So everybody, thank you for watching. We will see you next week.